Martin, let's start off from the western region, specifically the Jamaro constituency.
Yep.
Let's look at this. One of the areas where we've had illegal mining activities recorded. What does the trend say?
Well, I mean, the 2016 election, as of the time, the subject of Galamsey wasn't as topical or frontal when we talked about elections and how people voted. Coming to 2020, the NPP said that they lost a number of seats, including the Jamaro seat, because of Galamsey issues. Well, let's look at what exactly the numbers are saying. So we're starting from the parliamentary conversation about the Jamaro constituency. In 2016, the NPP won that seat for the parliamentary results. They got 39.4% against the NDC's 30%. Come to 2020, when it became part of the key conversations in the country about Galamsey and its attendant impacts, the NPP lost the Jamaro constituency in 2020. The NDC won it by 44.2%. So it was one of the seats that went into the basket of the NDC in 2020. Now coming to 2024, and NDC actually even increased the margin of win from 44% to 52.9%. So we can say 53% for the NDC. And look at the number that the NPP got, the percentage. In 2020, they got 36.1. In 2024, they got 29.6. Let's even say that is 30%. It clearly tells you that if the Galamsey conversation is anything to go by, the Jamaro constituency voted in 2020 for the NDC, and in 2024, they voted for the NDC again, increasing the margin. And that's the parliamentary results. Let's look at the presidential as well.
Maintain that seat for the NDC?
Yes.
For the parliamentary?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Won it for the NDC. And the presidential, again, the NPP won in 2016. And mind you, it's not too surprising that the NPP won some of these seats in 2016, because, again, just like what has happened in this year's elections, in 2016 there was a wave, a blue wave that blew across the country. NPP won many seats in parliament, and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo also won the national election by almost 1 million votes. Then in 2020, some called it a reset, where a number of the seats that flip-flopped went into the camp of the NDC, bringing the current number in parliament to a razor-thin majority. It was a majority of 1 for the NPP, because they blamed part of their defeat in 2020 to issues about Galamsey. In 2020, the NPP actually won the presidential election in the Jamaro constituency. It tells you that in 2020, they voted skirt and blouse. The presidential candidate of the NPP won the Jamaro seat. They got 47.8, or let's say 48%, and the NDC got 45.5%. Bring it into 2024, and the conversation is different. We are talking about the presidential results of the Jamaro constituency, and NDC's John Dramani Mahama got 60.8%. That is safely a 61 percentage point over the NPP's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who got 34.6. Round that up to 35%. So again, they voted skirt and blouse in 2020. However, in 2024, both presidential and parliamentary results went in favor of the NDC in the Jamaro constituency, Alfred.
Good stuff there. Now, let's stay in the western region. Let's go to Ameni Central.
Ameni Central.
All right. And going into this election, Ameni Central had its own issues.
Yep.
The incumbent MP, Peter Kwachiaka, stepped down at the last minute after he decided to go independent. He's an NDC MP, incumbent MP on the ticket of the NDC in Ameni Central in this 8th Parliament, and with the issues that he had with the primaries, and that's the candidate who has now been declared the winner. In fact, what we're learning is that based on the results so far, as declared by the Electoral Commission, Joanna Jankojo won the Ameni Central with a historic margin. In fact, she's the first female to represent Ameni Central as a member of parliament.
Right.
So that's the result in the Ameni Central constituency. Let's go to the parliamentary. Because that's where the issue is it not? And then you had there's this narrative thrown in because of illegal mining and matters arising in there. Guess what? With Ameni Central, it's always been NDC. It's
always been a safe seat for the NDC. That's how come, like picking up from where you left off, the NDC were very confident that they would win the seat. So although Peter Kwachiaka decided not to do business with the NDC or break away from the NDC to go as an independent candidate, the constituents who have supported the NDC over time said that, well, they cared less whether he decided to go solo or not. They just wanted an NDC candidate to be on the ballot. So you could tell that that was when the leadership, the creme of the NDC, went to the constituency to actually campaign and call for the Electoral Commission, who had withdrawn the candidature of Joanna Jankujo. The NDC leadership went there to ask that she be reinstated on the ballot paper because they believe that she won the primaries free and fairly. So if you look at the numbers she polled in, it tells you why they believed it was going to be a win for the NDC. So let's go back to 2016. NDC won it in 2016. They got 50.4%. MPP got 48.9%. 2020, NDC retained it again. That's when Peter Kwachiaka won it. He got 53.2% against the NPP's 44.6%. Let's give that to them and say 45. Now in 2024, look at the win margin. The NDC increased from 53.2% to 67.2%. And that is the impact or effect of Joanna Jankujo, who believed that she knew what she wanted, the constituents knew what they wanted, and believed in the ticket and the candidature of Joanna Jankujo. So she wanted, hands down, 67.2% against the NPP's candidate, who had 30.8%. Now let's look at the presidential votes as well in the Ameni Central constituency. And in the Ameni Central constituency, again, the NDC won the 2016 presidential results, 53.2 for the then candidate John Dramani Mahama against Akufo-Addo's 44.8. Come into 2020, the NDC increased their win margin to 58.1% against Akufo-Addo's 39.6%. Let's just say that is even 40% for Nana Akufo-Addo. Now 2024, and it's interesting how these numbers have turned out. It tells you something, Alfred, that in 2024, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's, I beg your pardon, John Dramani Mahama's figures actually went down. So the parliamentary candidate got more votes than the presidential candidate in the Ameni Central constituency, where John Mahama got 51.8% and Dr. Mahmoud Baumia increased the tally of Nana Akufo-Addo from 2020, where Akufo-Addo got 39.6 or 40% and made it 45.8%. Increasing the number means that the presidential candidate of the NPP was more popular than the parliamentary candidate in the Ameni Central constituency. However, the seat was safely in the corner of the National Democratic Congress. That's how it looked like.
Let's go to the next constituency as well in the Western region that had issues of illegal mining and matters arising in there. And Ameni and the team are going to get into this. It's the Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency. This is a constituency of the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, George Mrekuduka. George Mrekuduka lost this Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency. This is the first time, Martin, in the last 32 years that the NDC has won Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency. The first time in the last 32 years.
Yep.
Issa Taylor, the NDC candidate, is the MP-elect for Tarkwa-Nsuaem.
Yep. George
Mrekuduka, the Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister, has lost that election. And in fact, it's because of an independent candidate. One Jocelyn Moore who polled about 27,000. And I don't know why the NPP did not deal with the matters of the independent candidate in this Tarkwa-Nsuaem conference, because she contested in 2020, polled almost 30,000 and over votes. And then she contested 2024 again and some 27,000 votes.
Shockingly.
Taking a lot away from George Mrekuduka because they couldn't really deal with their issues. And it's a goner.
It goes to buttress the point that when parties fail to deal with the internal issues. When you go into the final elections, it could come back to bite you really hard, and it has bitten the NPP very bad in the backside. Let's go to 2016. And it was coming, Alfred. I say it was coming because if you look at the results from 2020, it was really, really close. But in 2024, the NDC actually overtook the NPP. But look at the figures from 2016. Then we can build up to 2024. In Tarkwa-Nsuaem, parliamentary results, NDC got 35.1%. NPP won that constituency with 62.2%. Come 2020, the NPP's numbers fell drastically. And so they actually had almost the same figures. Take a close look. NDC got 34.5%, NPP got 34.6%. Look at the nominal figures. NDC got 31,845. The NPP candidate got 31,946. Very, very close. So maybe you can do the math for me while I talk about the 2024 figures. 31,946 and then 31,845. So do that math for me while we talk about the 2024 figures. 2024, the NDC increased the tally from 34.5% to 56.5%. So that's safely 57% of the total votes in terms of percentage that the NDC got in the 2024 elections, beating the NPP candidate. And the NPP from 34.6%, they got 43.4%. And that is the parliamentary result. So the margin
in 2020 is just about 100 vote, 101. 101.
Just 101 vote difference.
And it's because Joycelyn Andor,
an independent
candidate who is actually from the MPP, contested George Merkuduka in 2020 and polled that number of votes from him. In 2024, she contested again, had about some 17,000 and over votes. George Merkuduka polled over 27,000. Issa Taylor of the NDC for the first time has won and flipped the Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency for the NDC with over 30,000 votes.
Maybe we want to look at the presidential results as well for Tarkwa-Nsuaem. And it's interesting we are talking about this because over the last few months in the Republic of Ghana, the key conversation has been about the environment. That's what we believe many of you went to the polls thinking about, the environment, its protection, and how this present administration have done in terms of protecting and helping the environment. The presidential candidates also played quite well for the NDC. They lost in 2016 by just 34.2%. Nana Akufo-Addo won it by 62.7%. Bring in 2020, and Nana Akufo-Addo won again, but had a bigger margin compared to that of the candidate, the parliamentary candidate. So whereas Akufo-Addo was making 51.8% in the Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency and NDC making 45.2%. Remember the figures from the NDC and MPP candidate in 2020. It was really, really close, but for the presidential, there is quite a margin.
So it cannot be the case that they lost votes because of illegal the fight against illegal mining.
Not at all.
Nanado won.
Nanado won the presidential.
George Merkuduka also won 2020. Okay.
But Merkuduka's numbers were very, very marginal.
Right.
Now bring in 2024.
Not because of the fight against illegal mining.
Because they couldn't
an independent
deal
candidate
with their internal political issues.
Right.
So we just need to put that on record. But in 2024, look at the percentage the NDC candidate won with. John Dramani Mahama got 58.8%. Let's make that 59%. He rose from 45.2 to 59%. As against Nana Akufo-Addo, who had 51.8% in 2020, and Dr. Bawumia making 38.0%. So they dropped or lost quite heavily if you compare these numbers. 51 against 38. It was a whooping defeat for the NPP in the Tarkwa-Nsuaem constituency presidential votes.
In fact, we're going to go to Ashanti region. Ibrahim Bokakra is going to join us in a bit on the constituency results in some of these Galamsey-prone constituencies. But Kemeni, with the few we have run through in the Western region, it does not support the narrative from 2020 to 2024 that the NPP lost seats in these areas because of the fight against illegal mining. At best, with what we have seen, there were some internal party issues that led to some of the seats being lost.
Indeed. Alfred, we'll let the desk handle that now. Thank you so much for taking us through those constituencies. If you're just joining us, remember, we have told you that our stream on Facebook is down, but you can watch us on YouTube and x.com. And we've been joined on the desk by MP-elect for Guan constituency. He's former Deputy Secretary General for General Secretary Communications, Deputy Communications Officer for the NDC. Fred Agbenyo, you're welcome to our continuing coverage of the elections.
It's quite concerning that Fred is not in white. It's in brown. So I don't know if he's creating a different kind of butterfly party. I mean,
Senor, that is it. That is what he chose to wear. Senor. Senor. No.
I think that I didn't hear any of the things that Senor said.
Indeed.
I just walked into the city straight away from the constituency.
Yes.
And so there's no way I could have worn white over the journey when the road is not good, so dusty and all that. So just bear with me.
But it means that your people are looking forward to you to fix.
If you want to see me in white, from tomorrow you see me in white. Just allow me to be in the brown. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I have not been here for some time now. For the last 4 months, I was in the constituency throughout. I was doing what I know what to do best. And by the grace of God, the people of Guan have now gotten representation in Parliament. You know, and let me seize the opportunity to thank people like Lawyer Martin Kwebu, Professor Asare, and several many Ghanaians who spoke about this, Franklin Kujo, several people. You know, the media, you know, everybody who... did you say something? I didn't hear you.
The media rights
Anyway, so Senor and everybody, yes, all of you, you know, for the road that you played, unfortunately, we have a government and electoral commission that will not listen to any of the things that we said. We made all the noise, we went to court, we did everything that we could under the sun. Nobody paid attention. But finally, they were compelled to create a constituency, and we went into the election. Surprisingly, they also put up a candidate to contest. You know, and I was surprised, but yes.
Were you expecting to go without an MVP candidate?
Of course, why not? I thought I was going to go on opposed, so I was surprised when I noticed that after all, they were also interested.
Yeah, I think their candidate came in late.
No, they came just at the right time. They also did their primaries, and 3 people contested. Their current DCE and former DCE son and the gentleman I contested with. But it's all well and good. Let me thank the chiefs, the people. The tolerant level of our people is something else. You know, in some other part of the country, people would have taken out, would have been, you know, would have engaged in all manner of unacceptable behavior. But we're very tolerant. We exercise restraint and patience up until the time that the country was created. I want to thank everybody who played a role. My council executive, led by my able chairman, Jamaro, and all the rest of them. The Nanum, the young people, the women, everybody played the significant role for us.
We'll talk about your constituency proper, but let's discuss. Yes, and so we'll talk about it proper a little later. But right now, let's look at the Galamsey constituencies and the role the advocacy played in the election, but also would narrow down to the expectations of the incoming government and how the advocacy will evolve around the new administration. And we're joined in the conversation via Zoom by Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe, who is a front right center for Media Coalition against...
Coalition.
Why it's not Media Coalition again?
Move on.
Oh,
Ghana, the whole Ghana coalition.
Senor, quiet. Senor, quiet.
I'm telling you.
I hear you.
It's serious.
So now it's Ghana coalition.
Yeah, it's a Ghana coalition. I mean, Daryl is part. Myself.
So we've taken off the Media Coalition.
Oh, no, the Media Coalition is there, but...
I was introducing Engineer Ashigbe.
I'm saying that
Engineer Ashigbe is convener of Media Coalition and then you were interrupting.
No, I'm telling you that.
I'll make you my assistant.
Bigger,
you wait.
Bigger.
You wait.
We'll
get there. We'll get there. But while Engineer joins us via Zoom, my understanding is that we're still trying to get him, to stabilize on that connection. Daryl, we've seen and established that the Galamsey, that it would appear that the government had used that as an excuse because they were afraid they were going to lose the elections like they did in 2020. We've established that it's not true. It didn't play an effect. But to think that even in some of those areas for this election, the NDC is flipping seats. The presidential candidates during the election or the president-elect won in certain areas. What story does it tell you?
Yes, I think this for me is very exciting to talk about because I recall how the government deliberately opened up community mining schemes in certain constituencies and districts just so that they could show up support for their candidates. I was in the field just before the election, particularly in the Elembele area, and how a lot of the miners were gunning for the DCE then, Bonzo, to win because he said, oh, he's brought a lot of community mining opportunities and we are all going to vote for him. And on the other side, there was the Honorable Boa also seriously working with local communities against the activities of Galamsey, which was destroying a lot of rivers and also forests within that area. And to see how the result has turned out, for me, is very, very exciting. I think the MPP probably was really living with the disillusion that really, if you give the people Galamsey, then they will vote for you. But the other side of the coin was also the polluted rivers, the forests, and even the loss of farmlands and all of that, which was also very, very important. And I think the messaging that went out, and I can say that there was a lot of community awareness also that went, particularly showing the Poison for Good, all those documentaries that came from the media front and all of that, also somewhat culminated in really making the electorate also very much aware of what was happening. So for me, the trend is very positive going into the future, so that nobody will take citizens for granted and say, people want to do Galamsey. And I think clearly we have shown Elembele areas is particularly known for a lot of Galamsey activities which really sprung up towards the to the lead of the election. And then we have the Ashanti region. For the Ashanti region and the Eastern region, you realize that you really can't say if Galamsey issues really played a role. It's always been a very traditional, I would say, stronghold for the MPP, and so it was very, very difficult to say. But you see a clear display of the fact that communities and people, citizens, really care about the issues of Galamsey. And even I can say, if you look at the central region, come to all the constituencies within the central region, all the way to Accra. The massive vote going to NDC, it could also be for the fact that people are really angry against the way the government handled the issues of Galamsey. And for me, it was one particular issue for which I was really encouraging people to really vote. Because if you look at your rivers, if you look at the state of your forest reserve, then that should inform how you should vote. And also looking at how the political parties committed to how they would deal with Galamsey was for me very, very important. So I think that it is no longer a point for any political party to say that the people want to do Galamsey as a livelihood option. And so if you give them more Galamsey through community mining, they're going to vote. The data is showing that it didn't really make any difference.
I see. Indeed. And does it also tell you that even for the perhaps the people in those communities themselves, they want much more than illegal mining?
Exactly. I think that because most of these community people, what I was saying was the fact that Galamsey came to displace farmers. It came to displace the source of water for communities. It came to displace even people who were engaged in cocoa and all of that. And most of these people were really, mourning or groaning quietly. They were waiting for something to happen. And there was a clear incidents in most places where the police were not even supporting the communities. Communities were fighting lone battles and nobody was supporting them. So if they had a chance now to vote, they took that opportunity and made sure that it was a resounding victory against a government that was not supporting in the fight against guns. So for me, I think it was very, very exciting. I don't know whether we'll come to the point where we'll talk about certain key individuals who led, who actually championed Galamsey, community mining. And for me, I will talk about also
Tarkwa-Nsuaem,
and particularly with the minister, deputy minister, Mekuduka losing his seat. I really took a strong, I was really offended, I should say, when he talked about the fact that we should wait for the elections to pass
and then in 3 months they'll fix the bad state of the water bodies. I thought that was something no leader should have had to say, because as a leader, you are elected to act in the best interest of citizens, and to that extent, you don't wait for an election before you act. So seeing that the people rose up again, and even in his own constituency where he was really doing a lot of work, pushing community mind and all those, they still voted against him.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really a signal to anybody that you can't take the voice of the people for granted. Yeah.
On the same subject matter, the role Galamsey played in this election.
Well, I think that the data is very clear. The Ghanaians were very much appalled what was going on in our country. I don't know if you had the opportunity of visiting those areas yourself, beyond the video footage that we see on television. When you get on the ground and you see the destruction that Galamsey was causing to this country, and the impunity with which it was carried out, you know, it's not as though they did in the quiet, they did in the forest somewhere. Sometimes you are driving past. I remember I went to Tarkwa around September thereabouts, and broad day afternoon you are passing just by the roadside. Often 2 kilometers away from it, people are mining in rivers and what have you. You see police cars drive past, everybody is driving past, nobody is saying anything. It's as if there was no control, there was no authority, nobody cares. It is free for all. You can do whatever you want to do. And truly, a few people were making money from the Galamsey. But like Darren rightly said, what about those who lost their cocoa farms? You know, all the water bodies were gone. Every other economic activities gave way to Galamsey. And all those people were not benefiting from the Galamsey money. How were you expecting them to survive? So naturally, they will wait for elections to come for them to also prove to you that what was going on and the government was not saying anything about, they will use election to punish the government. I was sad when Dr. Bamian, for instance, appointed the Deputy Minister for Lands and Forestry as a campaign coordinator in charge of Galamsey issues. Meanwhile, there's somebody that has been accused himself, you know, of being involved in these activities. So how then do you going to appoint him to be the one in charge of Galamsey issues in the Galamsey areas? And I thought that was more like an insult to the people who live in this particular area. That right, whatever you are saying, we don't care. We are going to bring the same person back, and whether you like it or not, we have brought him back. That is the impression that was created. And so for me, the result that we saw, if you look at Greater Accra, for instance, out of about 34 constituencies, NDC won almost 31 of the constituencies. We don't do mining over here. So we cannot say that Galamsey was the key determinant as to how people voted in these particular elections. If you go to Upper West region, we won all the seats in Upper West. Or Upper East, we won all the seats in Upper East. Savannah, we lost only 1 seat in Savannah. Voter region, we won all the seats. Otirigi, we won all the seats. So beyond the Galamsey, there was something else that Ghanaians were looking out for. You know, the state capture, the difficulty, economic difficulty in which we were. And so for me, this thing is a lesson to all of us politicians. We must look beyond just what has happened to MPP. And those of us who are coming to office today should also be very, very careful. We must learn a lesson from this, that you cannot take the people of this country for granted. You can't take Ghanaians for granted. They may be slow in acting. In some other jurisdiction, you expect them to maybe demonstrate and maybe overthrow even the government or do all the things that we see in some countries. Ghanaians, they'll be very patient, they'll be watching you.
No, even here we also demonstrated.
Yes, but it was not that violent I would have seen in some other jurisdiction, you know. Because what happened with this Galamsey issue, in some other countries, it was enough for the government to have been overthrown. To be honest with you, in some other countries, they would have overthrown, you know, but Ghanaians, yes, we'll go on demonstration, we'll talk about it on radio, we're patient, we're tolerant, we're observing. And so when the election results start trickling in, I say, wow. So Ghanaians really know what is going on. They are aware, except that they didn't want to destroy the democracy that we have decided to run with. And so let us, as patient, we are not going to overthrow the government. We are not going to destroy our country. We are going to wait for the elections. And once the elections are there, they will take a decisive decision. And that's what we have seen. And for me, as I said, we in NDC must learn a big lesson from this. We must learn a lesson from this. That's because we are going to take over governance from January next year. We must listen to the people of Ghana.
Indeed.
We must pay attention to the people of Ghana. We must seek the interest of the people of Ghana. They have voted us for a reason. we have entered, we have a special contract with them. We must make sure that we live up to that particular contract. The impunity, the arrogance, the disrespect that we saw in the last 8 years, I am going to plead for all my colleagues, especially those who get opportunity to serve in government, that we must exercise this authority with moderation. We must be very considerate. We must be sensitive to the needs of the people of this country. And that is the only way we can remain in office for long. But if you are going to continue with what we have seen with this particular government, then we are going to run into trouble as well. And I believe several of us have learned our lessons, and given the opportunity, we are going to do things differently. Ghanaians, really, we need to applaud and thank the people of this country, not necessarily because they voted Akufo-Addo out of the country. The fact that they were able to endure, you know, all the things that happened in the past 8 years.
His term has ended, though. So he wasn't.
Well, he's still there. You know, you see, he's still there. Look at
hang on.
all the chaos and all the things that are going on in the country today. You are still in charge. You are still the commander-in-chief of Ghana Armed Forces, and you are quiet. You are lying. You are sleeping. You don't seem to care about what is happening in the country again.
Family members' property. You are watching.
You know, you have not handed over power yet. You are still the president of the republic. At least the few days that are left, do something. And so for me, the Galamsey issue, we cannot say we will not mind in this country. But what we saw, and of course, I will not sit here and pretend that Galamsey started with Akufo-Addo's government. When we were in office, we saw it. But the scale, the level that it got to, and governmental complacency, and people at high places were directly involved. And oftentimes, we went out there chasing the young surviving boys who will go and be doing the Galamsey on the field. The persons the laborers, so to speak, the laborers that people were going after. The men who own the excavators and all this heavy moving equipment, they were staying and crying, enjoying, drinking whiskey.
We'll get a bit more. We'll get a bit more into that, but we'll get a bit more into what the incoming government is capable of doing, and the advocacy during that period as well. But lawyer, let's take on the subject of Galamsey and the elections. We know that when organized labor, when the Ghana Coalition Against the Galamsey, when we had all decided to join the advocacy, a task force was set up. Did it do its job to the best of your knowledge?
That's always the question. So you see that when the task force was set up, what happened was at that time, the election issues were getting bigger and bigger. What I mean is that I remember there were some other issues that came up. So you didn't have journalists going into the interior, okay, to check what was going on. I kept saying that, and I remember there was something. So I even complained in some of the interviews I granted that why are we spending so much time on that particular matter we're discussing instead of going to, yes, the Fix the Country demonstrations, yes. So democracy has. So you see that we kept spending more time. People were more interested in condemning our young people who rather sought to do some publicity stunts to energize the fight against Galamsey. And where I think some radio stations spent too much time advocating for punishment, swift punishment for them. When really, these are heroes. They decided to go do some publicity stunts so that the fight will be energized. Oliver Baka, Vomawo, etc. They are still in court, right? So we didn't have the cameras following the police and the water guards. They said they were deploying water guards. You see, we couldn't send the
boats. They did nothing happen. They didn't really get deployed.
Yes, I remember I was not happy at all, but it looks like a lot of people were more interested in take them to court. You remember we were very upset with IG and Godfrey Dami for packing so many young people. Do you know that as we speak now, I'm on a platform of lawyers providing support. Over 20 of them have been discharged. They just arrested a lot of innocent citizens and just added them, kept them in custody, and the courts also remanded them. So remember that whole fight. So that was when we were supposed to take the cameras to the water bodies and monitor the activities. We lost that chance, right? But good riddance that we've sacked the MPP. But let's also mention this. Now I'm going a bit to the genesis, right? Not exactly genesis, but at least 2 years ago. You remember in September, October 2022, we had a kind of a mini crisis again on this Galamsey fight. So on the 10th or 12th of October, myself and 3 other persons, Engineer Ken Ashigbe, Kwame Saponesiedu, and Edem Senanu, we presented a petition to the IGP that Chairman Wuntumi and Akunta Mining be prosecuted for Galamsey because Erastus Asaridonko had done a documentary where there was clear evidence of Akunta Mining, that's Chairman Wuntumi's company, in the Tarkwa-Nsuaem forest, etc. Just a few days after our petition, at that time we didn't have the Ghana coalition, so it was a media coalition against Galamsey.
Right.
Also presented a petition to the IG. The 4 of us as individuals presented our petition to Madam Andokofi, Faustina Andokofi, CID boss. Then the media coalition presented theirs to IG. Then IG Dampare referred the media coalition's petition to Andokofi. So now the 2 petitions were before her. Now come and see pussyfooting. Meanwhile, this is one open and shut case.
No.
Open and shut because Abu Jinapo Minister for Lands and Forestry came and said Chairman Wuntumi and his company had no license to go into the Tarkwa-Nsuaem forest. The Forestry Commission came and said so. Then Martinez Minerals Commission, this and CEO also said so. So these were 3 witnesses. Then Erastus Asaridonko, Madam Andokofi and IG Dampare, because of politics, because they wanted to keep their offices. They dodged us. Today, you see, so you see why Dampare has to go. Dampare is more political than a Kufuado. I'm telling you, if you ask when the Ghana coalition sought to go and see him, Senyo, you are the one tasked to go. Dampare swept Senyo San. So Andokofi and Dampare, you see now, how do you think you will get my support? Chairman Wuntumi, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP. Do you know how you would have bolstered the fight against Galamsey if you had presented them before court? When Abu Jinapo was willing to come and testify, Martinez, CEO of the Minerals Commission, same. Forestry Commission, yeah, Dampare, more political than a Kufuado. You see? So, October 2022, now we are in December 2024. Just 2 years. You've schemed down and now you fall into a ditch. That's why I keep telling the ask for Dampare. Dampare has to go. Because his politics, he protected the Kufuado too much. That's not the only case. There are several other cases. Okay, several other cases. I don't think that there's time to go into that. So you see that this one IG who was just trying to do everything to please the Kufuado. Once in a while, then he will play for the citizens like Asen Love. Asen Love, because he did, once NDC won, initial euphoria, oh, Dampare can do the work, he can do the work. No. But if you critically analyze, and that's how IGs have behaved, most of the time, they act and try to please certain presidents. Then once in a while, they'll throw some crumbs at citizens. Then some people get excited. But that is the thing. Because like I'm telling you, there's a superintendent in charge of the case. It's called Inkum, Superintendent Inkum. Yes. Reports to CID boss, Madam Andokofi. Look, the last time we wrote to her in April, till date, you call her, you send WhatsApp, no response. Just meet us and give us an update. I'm happy.
So that case is still hanging.
Yes. And then,
which means I would expect.
So I'm happy Sonyo himself to have experience. And Sonyo, tell Ghanaians, you to your experience when you were tasked to go and see IG.
For this matter, I can only do my official work, which I've been. That man is my friend. You know, I was one of those who defended his.
So you have a conflict.
Oh, but I have to be honest about the thing. I mean, after that's the fact that you are my friend, but me as my friend, I didn't vote for you.
You didn't vote for him?
I didn't vote for him.
Say it louder.
I've said it already.
Okay.
Oh, I said it from something.
But you know.
I didn't want to say it.
When the fundamentals of digitalization are weak, the e-gate. That was the closing act.
No, that was the closing
act.
Not voting for Bawumia, it's not because for me, it's because you can't reward this kind of governance. So for me, it was the MPP and then Bawumia in his person. I'm sure a lot of us here, when you get to know Bawumia, you like him, just like James. James is a fantastic guy, but his government in 2016,
a monumental failure.
Yeah, under the circumstances, I absolutely agree with you, because a president is one, is a whole machinery you come with, and that's what we voted against GM for in 2016. But on this matter,
yes,
I was truly taxed, and I engaged Dampari, and he's aware. And also, interestingly enough, it was a bit around the time when they were trying to also take him on. So it was a bit heated, and he sort of encouraged us to exercise a little patience. But that patience, Charlie, it's been like, it's what, how many months now? 9 months or more?
Hey, yours is like 9 months.
And just, what's all about the same thing?
I see.
But we're all on the same platform.
And nothing has been done.
I mean, nothing. You see, but I think that if he had taken that move, and the president did not participate in the conversation, these are the things which would have
washed his hand clean.
Help the MPP even do better in this. They showed that they were so culpable in everything wrong with our country. The president went to say there was nothing wrong with Akota mining.
Yeah.
He said it in front of
Catholic priest.
And Catholic priest. Catholic nearly fainted.
Yeah.
Engineer, but here, you know, so honestly,
they defended every
for
wrong
thing. This monumental, you guys don't have a term for the loss.
No,
you said that the MPP said they annihilated the NDC, which is correct. It was unprecedented annihilation. We annihilated.
How do you describe this?
And then this one, they have been obliterated.
Exactly.
Exterminated. You know, but it's a good thing for the MPP.
It's good for our democracy.
It's good for the MPP needs to do some real soul searching. It has to purge itself from these Wuntumistic behaviors.
From what?
The Wuntumistic behaviors. You understand? I was just watching something, and then I was Otufo. One was advising Akufo-Addo, and he was telling him that Ghana for a come near before the yearly 2 mama. Now one chairman is here. Yeah, I'm confident they come any before be 2. Yeah, they are combined before they are triple. I 2 no. All cannot now. What reach in the home? They say, please, this kind of human beings. This is not MPP. This is not MPP. When you carry MPP people today and you discuss what is property only democracy, they don't know. It's like the NDC people, they don't even know what social democracy is.
We know.
I mean, go to your
All right, no, we won't get to that.
But you see,
to that.
NDC people, we know that they just, I mean, they are socialist parties.
Yeah, but you know,
center left, right?
Yes, center left.
You know, but for the MPP, no. The MPP
they have no ideology today.
They have nothing. I mean, I think that the statementship by Bawumia should be a rallying ground for them to see the kind of character that MPP should be about. So the Galamsey matter, let me celebrate, just like I celebrated Henry Curtis downfall for trying to disenfranchise his fellow citizens who he's supposed to protect.
What are you talking about?
When he said he closed the borders, I don't have a problem with closing the borders, but you can't close your borders to your own citizens. Yes. When something happens, you should be in the height to go and bring your people and protect them.
Yeah.
Now your guys want to come exercise their civic duty and civic rights, and then you do this. And when you look at the history, it's all because of the perception of something. Yeah. People cross. I don't even understand. But it's okay.
Come to the airport,
who can vote without what's the name? A Ghana card or without a registered voter's ID? So if you were able to allow the person to register, means you recognize that the person is a Ghanaian. And this is 2024. They will do our things as if we are 1921. This kind of behavior must stop. But having said that, I celebrated Henry Curtis downfall. Henry Curtis, repent. Jesus is coming. You are not that. Stand on your. Hold on. Mekuduka, you are my guy. But this one, go and look for your minus for whatever it is. God has punished you.
Hey.
Yes. When you sit down there and the seat in which you were in, water that will feed all of us, quench our thirst, make us survive. Not just us, our children, our children's children. For economic benefits and political benefits, which can only accrue to financial benefits. To whoever. You forget about your mandate to the people. That's what the Mekuduka I knew when I was sitting in the Ministry of Energy with. He's not that guy. I wasn't. He was not a guy. So if this is the human, I heard him. And I saw this thing, he went to do minus for whatever the Galamsey, they say that there are people in Accra. He was trying to now set people in Accra against people. Who does that as a minister of state? You. Who were you before? Don't do that. Go and sit down in the cooler and cool down and think again. People need water for their survival before they look for cash. I've not seen anybody drink their money before. And I've not seen anybody have a conversation with their money.
I mean, the way you're speaking, then it would mean that the incoming administration should look into the allegations against Mekuduka.
Oh, the allegations, they should look, they are on there. They have oral something. I don't know why it's oral, be toothbrush or toothpaste. I don't know which one they should do it.
That one and what did you call it? Wuntumistic
behaviors. No, they have to go.
The incoming administration should look into that.
But you see, this country, it's a very funny place. So, you see, this time around, before they used to have Zoka boys, you guys had Zoka boys or something. Yeah, you realize that now, this time around, they managed all those things. The NDC was strategic.
No, we don't have any of those.
Because of the vigilantism law, all of them
they didn't create all these things. They didn't create all those things. But one to me alone carried himself like he's a one-man vigilante for the whole thing. You can't be warning people. Who are you?
Oh, but where is the conversation going? Let me draw you back. Let me draw you back. No, senor.
So this Galamsey matter.
It's okay. Let me draw you back.
For me, I don't think I should even be blaming someone like Wuntumi alone. We should be blaming the president himself.
No,
he's the one opening a flag for all those things to happen.
That's why I was saying he was sitting by him. These are the people he puts by him.
And anytime anybody misbehaves, he's the first person to run away.
But you know, we're saying, hang on, gentlemen, hang on. We're saying that
Akufo-Addo, he will go down as the worst thing that's happened to this country.
It's not that he will go down. Get your worst right. He has gone down.
Right. But what I want, what I want you to think about is the fact that
wrongdoing.
No, Fred. I want you to think about the fact that in the first term efforts of this NPP administration, I have read work from the CSIR that shows that their first term efforts to deal with Galamsey worked.
Perfect.
Right?
No.
Let me ask the question. And then you can respond. From there, 2019, 2020 onwards, then the efforts dipped, the Galamsey continued. Daryl, that brings me to you. What were the mistakes that administration did that the incoming one should be careful of?
Great. So I think you did make the point about first term efforts, right? And that was we had the ban on small scale mining, which from 2017, June 2017, right up to the end of 2018. Within that period, I mean, we saw some attempt by government to streamline the system, re-register people and all of that. So at that point it worked. And that was the point where everybody stay off the fields, don't go mining. That was an approach where you can't guarantee sustainability. Like has been said, we still must mine as a country. So you can't put an indefinite ban on mining. So rightly so, in December, it was lifted. And that was where the test really came. Whether we're going to be able to sustain that, keep people off the water bodies and out of our forest reserve. Unfortunately not. And then we saw also actions of the Vanguard, Operation Hot coming in, even to the point where we're even suggesting that we should shoot people on sight. So I think over there, we had some of the military people talking about the fact that when they make arrests, you don't see a commensurate prosecution action coming to really support them. So they go to the field, they deploy, they arrest so many people, they confiscate equipment, but nothing gets done. So this is where we failed I mean, very serious in terms of we making sure that the measures that were supposed to be deterrent really worked. So people realize that, okay, once you're with the government and you can get into it and then nothing will happen to you, more people were getting into it. And I think it was one of the major complaints the Operation Horde and Vanguard team kept talking about, that nobody was really taking up the action of prosecution. There were promises that they were even going to set up courts to make sure that people who are arrested were also really prosecuted to ensure that there was sufficient deterrence. We didn't see all of that happen. And then there was also the issue of Ashawan issues pending, the Chinese, all of these people in there. A lot of people were arrested, but you go to the prisons, you only see the Ghanaians in the prisons, but there was no record of the Chinese in there. So at that point, you realize that government was somewhat, I would say, negatively learning. Wait, we can really pretend we are fighting the Galamsey, but really, they didn't really mean it. And that's, I think we had all of these outcomes where some of the military people even issues with the corruption cases coming out, the government officials being seen on television, collecting bribes and all of these issues started coming after that. There was an interministerial committee was supposed to work, all of these things. So I would say that yes, that attempt of banning was really what brought us close. Right after that, the Vanguard approach was okay, but not sufficiently sustainable to keep us really solving the problem. And right from there, it didn't get better. I think it got worse. It just got worse.
I see. But Darrell, then my follow-up to that will be, this administration still has time.
No, there's not much.
They don't have time to do anything.
Right now, there's no time.
But we've had a task force working all this while.
See,
they should be able to do
from
something.
September
Unless
11,
you want to tell me the task force is not working.
We had time. I mean, during the last period of the election, lead up to the election, September 11, when we saw civil society, the faith-based institutions, professional body, everybody coming and demanding for a state of emergency, demanding for government to act against miners working around our rivers and forests. That was a moment where the president could have done something. We asked for a repeal of LI 2462. They could have done something. Then we know, of course, there's a parliamentary issue, but I don't want us to always.
This no time you are saying, then it means that people will now,
we started talking about this before this chaos in parliament started.
No, but there's
right now,
we are in the transition period.
Yes.
There should be something in place to ensure that during this period, going into the new era, we won't have the environment doubly or triply destroyed.
No, I was rather concerned just before the election, people cashing out, last minute action, people going to the forest. But right now, people are going to try and move their equipment from site, because otherwise, I know somehow the NDC supporters will go after them. They will know where everybody is and start going after. That's what is going to happen. And we've seen it happen in the previous election period. So I think that this one too, they're going to be very careful being in the field with the excavators. Otherwise, they'll come for it. So they'll rather stay out of the forest reserves and also out of the. That's what I'm expecting to see right now.
That's what you're expecting to see. It looks like it's an situation, right?
Forgive me, but a minister of state says that when they come to office, we return them to office. You take 3 months to clean the river. So the river. So what have you been doing all these 8 years?
Exactly.
But in his particular case, what have you been doing almost all these 4 years? You see, when you talk like it's wickedness. No, what I said.
Senor, so that's the end of your comments. That's definitely the end of your comments.
The guy matter. The team paid me. When I was watching him talk, I was in shock.
As I said,
Fred.
As I said, the government was not ready. The government was not prepared.
Willing.
The government was not willing to fight corruption. We heard the senior minister, what is his name, Honorable Safumafo, when Ashawan was arrested. He asked the Ghanaians, why, if you jail this woman, how do you benefit from China? Economically, how will you benefit?
So the NDC government will behave differently?
You see, trust me, we have learned our lessons. We are not angels. I am not saying that when we had opportunity, we didn't make mistakes. But you see the new NDC government.
Thank you.
We are not going to tolerate this. You see, we behave in the last 8 years as though Ghana was coming to an end after Nana Akufo-Addo. Yes. As though there will never be any Ghana again. And so let's finish up everything. Let's destroy everything. Let's take as much as we could take. That's the way they behaved. Everything that they saw, every money, they went after it. With speed and alacrity, they didn't care the effect. They were just grabbing everything. And the president was quiet. Anytime he goes to attention, he will be the first to defend the people. They want to make sure that lawyer Martin is raising. We had a president. He cleared him first. Yeah. He cleared him first. And so I'm saying that, you see, as for President Akufo-Addo, I'm praying for him that when he exits office next month, God should give him more life to stay back and soberly reflect on the opportunity that was given to him as a president and see if indeed he himself, his conscience, his heart of hearts, will rest at peace that indeed he governs as a president.
Well, we're going to have to hand over.
He failed this country so much.
We're going to have to hand over to the gentleman on the other side. No, senor, no. Daryl,
we can't.
Two things.
We can't afford to.
Are you hopeful that the incoming administration could do something? We've heard a lot. It's not just Fred who's saying this. And while you're answering that question, how is the advocacy going to evolve around to the new administration?
The question of being hopeful. I remember when President Nana took office in 2017, we sent him a message of our expectations as well. And we're also very, very hopeful. But it turned out that he became one who disappointed greatly when it comes to the fight against Galamsey. I want to rely on what the incoming, Fred is saying, Honorable is saying that they are going to be different. I mean, that's the only thing that can save the new government. If they are going to act differently and really be very decisive in dealing with Galamsey, that is the only way we are going to stay off their backs. Because otherwise, I mean, getting into the next question of what we are going to do, the fight against Galamsey continues. And already we are really looking at reaching out to the government, even through the transition period, to really let them make sure that
the incoming government,
the incoming government, to put it on the table so that they prioritize it and deal with it. So it's something that is not going to, we are actually now going to revamp the campaign, because this new government must act decisively. And fortunately, I should say fortunately, because it's already in their manifesto. They committed to it. And even when you look at the president's new government's 120-day actions, acting on Galamsey and all of that isn't there.
That's right.
So, I mean, this is for us, the period for us to see whether they are really serious about it or not. And this 120-day period is going to tell us how really we should deal with them if they really,
the committee.
So we are really going to take that.
The pledge, the Ghana coalition against put a ballot.
So you hold it against?
No, we'll hold it against it. But let's be honest about this. We all know that the Galamsey beneficiaries, they also have funded the politics of the time. So they will come back expecting that they'll get some cover from their new friends. And that is...
I mean, I don't know.
No, I'm telling you.
No, the thing that I'm against.
What I want to tell the politicians is that illegal money that came to fund your election is money that was indirectly stolen from the people. So you must see it as public financing of your parties. You don't owe those people a thing. Those people have destroyed our country. You must go after them. Every single person. And Karen Alfredo can't say to go and catch them with you.
All right. You know about.
Quickly, I want to hand over to the gentleman.
Some of the nananom, some of the senior pastors,
catch them inside.
Who will start calling the president?
I won't do this
and start putting pressure on the president. Don't go after them. Don't do this. They should stay away.
They should stay away.
Let us punish wrongdoing.
They should stay away.
And that will serve kind of deterrent for all of us who are coming to office.